I still hear her voice when I close my eyes. It was soft, almost kind, but it carried something cold, something that made my chest tighten. She said, "You'll stay with me forever now." I can't explain how much those words haunt me. My name is Ode, and this happened when I was 17. I lived in a small village in Nigeria, surrounded by thick forest. People always told stories about the old palace ruins deep in the woods. They said a wicked princess once lived there, a woman so cruel that even the gods turned their backs on her. They called her Princess Adesola, but no one liked to say her name out loud. Most people thought it was just a tale to scare kids, but I didn't. My uncle went missing in those woods years ago. No one ever found him. One evening, my friends and I were walking back from the river. The sun was setting, and the air was heavy with heat and the buzz of insects. Dapo, my loudmouth friend, said, "Let's take the shortcut through the forest. It's faster." I didn't want to. I hated the way the trees seemed to close in, like they were watching you, but I didn't want to seem scared. So, I followed. The forest got darker fast. The trees blocked out the last bits of sunlight, and the air felt cold. Too cold for a humid night. That's when we saw her. She was standing in the middle of the path, wearing a faded white dress. Her skin was pale like she hadn't seen the sun in years, and her hair fell over her face. She wasn't moving, just standing there, like she was waiting. "Who's that?" Dapo whispered. No one answered. Then she lifted her head. Her face was beautiful but wrong. Her eyes were empty, completely black, and her smile didn't look human. It was too wide, too sharp. "You're lost," she said, her voice echoing in a way that didn't make sense. "Come. I'll help you." Dapo took a step toward her like he couldn't help it. I grabbed his arm and whispered, "Don't." The woman, or whatever she was, tilted her head and stared at me. Her smile faded. "You don't belong here," she said, and for a moment, her voice sounded angry. "But it's too late now." Suddenly, the air around us changed. It felt heavy, like I couldn't breathe. The forest grew darker, and I swear the trees started to move closer. The woman reached out her hand, and I saw her nails, long, black, and sharp like claws. "Run!" I yelled. We turned and ran, but the path kept twisting and changing. It was like the forest didn't want us to leave. I could hear her behind us, her footsteps light but impossibly fast. And her laugh, it was everywhere, echoing through the trees. Somehow, we made it back to the village, but when we turned around, the path was gone. It was just a wall of trees, like the forest swallowed it up. Dapo wouldn't talk about it after that. He said we were just imagining things, but I saw the fear in his eyes. As for me, I know what I saw. A week later, Dapo disappeared. They found his sandals near the edge of the forest, but nothing else. People whispered that the princess had taken him. I haven't gone near those woods since, and I never will. But sometimes, late at night, I hear her voice again, soft and cold, "You'll stay with me forever now." After Dapo disappeared, the village changed. People started locking their doors before sunset, and no one talked about the forest anymore. It was like everyone was pretending nothing happened, but you could feel the fear in the air. I couldn't pretend. I kept dreaming about her, Princess Adesola. In my dreams, I was back in the forest, and she was always there, watching me. She never said anything in the dreams, just smiled that too wide smile. I'd wake up sweating, my heart pounding like I'd just been running. One night, I decided I needed answers. My grandmother, Mama Ife, was the oldest person in the village. She knew all the old stories. If anyone could tell me what was happening, it was her. When I told her about what we saw in the forest, she didn't look surprised. Instead, she sighed and shook her head. "You shouldn't have gone there, Ode," she said, her voice heavy. "Who is she?" I asked. "Is she a ghost? A witch?" Mama Ife stared into the fire in her small kitchen. "Princess Adesola was cursed," she said finally. She was the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen, but her heart was black. She was cruel, greedy, and jealous. The story goes that she betrayed her own family to gain power. She poisoned her father, the king, and tried to take the throne. But the gods saw what she did. They caused her to wander the forest forever, alone and forgotten. To be continued? Kindly subscribe for part 2.